Well, on Friday, the U.S. Labor Department will release October's jobs report. What will be in it and how much of it can we believe? For a discussion on that and the other market news of the day, we're joined by Ken Kamen from Arcadian Asset Management. Ken, welcome to Rise Exchange. Thank you for coming in. We were talking a little bit before the show began on the ADP jobs report, which is the private sector jobs report that came out yesterday. And it had some surprising strength in it.
Yeah, I found it very interesting that actually small companies had the biggest job growth and large companies had the worst. And I actually think when you dig down into that, it makes a very good commentary for where we are in the economy. The recovery is certainly not going as swiftly as we'd like, but it is certainly going and chugging along. And the interesting thing about having small companies start to really hire is those are companies that have to hire when demand immediately picks up. You look at large companies, they have huge budgets to put into technology, robots, and all the things that are outsourcing jobs because we are seeing productivity and utilization way up.
That's an interesting comparison because productivity going up is generally a good sign for the economy as well, but it sometimes slows down job growth a little bit because one person does more. With small businesses, it's interesting, your point, because they don't have the resources, technology-wise, and also they don't have sort of that gap, if you will, or a slag in their workforce where they could pull people in.
And the majority of them are service-type businesses. They're a local restaurant, they're the theater, they're your accountant, your attorney, things that, you know, they could hire a little bit more and when they need it, and they're not using technology the same way the big guys are.
You mentioned, though, something, service sector industries, which have shown jobs improvement, but those are often lower wage jobs, aren't they?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, certainly if you want to pick out some of the restaurant stuff, but, you know, everything from accountants, professionals, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, kind of pent-up demand starting to come out of the woodwork.
When you look at the bigger companies, especially publicly traded companies in the jobs sector, they've improved their bottom line by cutting expenses, not so much top line revenue growth. Does that mean that they will be quicker to hire because they simply will need the workforce to return?
I don't know if you could directly make that extrapolation because, I mean, you can't cut your way to zero, but technology is getting more and more effective. So, you know, that the jury remains to be seen on that. I think that you really need to have to look at is what's the economic activity. And we're starting to see a dramatic pickup in things like autos, which is labor. We're seeing travel pick up. I mean, just look at some of the theme park numbers that have been coming out. People are traveling.
We had someone earlier on the week who said that 2016 is going to be a great year for travel. Tomorrow we get a jobs number report out. What are you expecting for the October numbers?
I expect they'll probably come in line. I think that they will be good enough that it's going to force the Fed's hand.
Better job participation?
Yeah, actually, I do think so. Because, you know, we're starting to see, like I said, auto sales are going through the roof. We're seeing a lot of travel, theme park, as we just discussed. So we're starting to see it broaden out a lot, although we're not seeing it in robust GDP.
And we're not seeing wage inflation yet.
No, we're not.
What people who work would like to call raises.
But, you know, there is a silver lining to this kind of slow trickle up of GDP. The fact that it's not running and spiking means it's way more, it'll more likely be way more prolonged. In other words, it's slow and steady wins the race. So I think that you're going to see a jobs number that's in line with expectations. And I'm in the camp, you know, everyone's, you know, this on again, off again, whether is the Fed going to move or not going to move. I'll just put it out there. I wish they move. Let's just get this thing behind us.
Yeah, at this point, she seems to have to do something. People are surprised by her December announcement. You think that it could happen in December?
She's starting to talk a little bit more. I shouldn't say she. Chair Yellen is talking more hawkishly. I think you've seen the market rally on that. And ironically, the thing that the market's been fearing the most for the last 5 years is when interest rates move, we're going to go into a dive. I think that we're going to see the market actually use it as the beginning of the next leg up.
Relief that the economy is getting stronger.
Stronger, and the boogeyman's out of the way.
A real rate increase or a 250 basis point increase?
You know,
I guess an increase is an increase.
25 basis points, just a liftoff. Just lift off, get it behind us.
It's an interesting point because if the Fed believes the economy is stronger, that will translate to investors?
Yeah, and the dollar has already strengthened on it. If you think in a very perverse way, the dollar has strengthened on the Fed threatening to raise interest rates, which they never did, which caused the dollar to strengthen, which caused United States earnings to weaken, which caused commodities to weaken worldwide, which caused unstable global markets.
One comment. And you have this ripple effect across the entire
world.
But
ironically, that chain of events led the Fed saying in September why they couldn't raise rates. Meanwhile, it was their crying wolf to do it. So if they're not going to do it, I would just hope they'd stop talking about it.
Then what is Janet Yellen going to talk about? But they keep asking her, so in her defense.
That's your industry, not mine. Stop asking her.
Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Same here.
Coming up on a Rise Exchange, a presidential candidate's drug speech and why it went viral. Stay with us.